the most popular video I made on TikTok was about like how I was looking for evidence that I'm folk, which folk is a gang, I think, or they're a, like I said before, they're not a gang, they're kind of like a brotherhood, but they're like almost like a secret society out of Chicago, and they tend to be black, and apparently they were founded by Solomon. Solomon, like from the Bible, like they're like they say they're like an ancient, like secret society almost. But the real question is, am I actually folk? Like, how did I become folk? And like, is it dangerous that someone decided to make me folk? Because say that you're a undercover cop who takes in a 14-year-old kid and talks him into running away from home. Wait, no, he didn't talk me into running away from home. He's just hung out with me when I ran away from home. I'm talking about this guy named Strife. And you decide you're gonna make him Mexican Mafia Crip folk. That's what I'm gonna do. You're gonna join my gang, and they wanna jump me into their gang. They wanted to jump me into Crip, like beat me up. I'm talking about this guy named Bear. Pretty sure Bear's name was Matt. And this guy Strife. And I don't know about Squirrel. Squirrel was an 18-year-old that beat up a 12-year-old. That was a 12-year-old runaway kid. So Strife was Mexican Mafia, Crip, folk at the same time. Is that possible? Not really. I mean, maybe if you're me who's none of them, and then you're like, I'm just going to claim them all because I'm from the lab. Maybe you can be every gang if you want to be every gang, but the reality is that guy was a cop. Like, he was an undercover cop that turned a 14-year-old kid into a Crip and a folk, and I never considered myself Mexican Mafia because I'm not Mexican. And so all I'm saying is, say that 14-year-old kid got put in jail for drugs because they also were really big on pushing meth on me and stuff like that. So say that they got me arrested, and then I went to jail, and then I started claiming that I was West Side Crip. Well, I guess it'd be that way, and then folk. Like, if that's the case, would that put me in danger? I'm pretty sure you can get beat up for claiming a gang that you're not from, because like when I posted this thing about like searching for evidence that I was folk, which they didn't understand that it was like a joke, but I still like think that we have like I still know one thing is that we're cool with folk, because like I think folk was founded by Solomon. Like, I actually believe it, and that I'll bet folk doesn't even believe that. But like, there's a reason that we have folk tales, and Taylor Swift's album is called Folklore, and that a pitchfork is kind of my symbol because, you know, Satan carries a pitchfork. It's because we are actually folk. But what I'm trying to say is, I never actually became folk. I had a undercover cop tell me I was folk, and tell me I was a Crip, and tell me that he was Mexican Mafia, but I never actually was a part of that gang. So if a cop introduces a 14-year-old kid into a gang that he is not actually a part of, is that dangerous for that 14-year-old kid? I think it's very dangerous. And all I'm saying is the cops in Colorado Springs have been very dangerous for a long time. This was 1999, I think, that this was going on. Between 1999 and 2000, like probably in March of 2000, I moved from Colorado. And before that was when I was a gang member, and I was mostly a Crip. And I was hanging out with the cops all the time. And there was this guy named Preston I hung out with all the time, who was a lot older than me, and he said he'd been in trouble for meth before. And we lived at this hotel at one point, and then there was this guy who was like a homeless person who had dollar pills of heroin, and he had a gun. It was crazy because he was a homeless person with a gun. He had a big gun. It was a revolver. It was like a 44, like long barrel. I think what I'm trying to say is, these cops, if you're a Colorado Springs person, what you need to know is they will put your children in danger. If they suspect you, say that you got a job working for my dad, and you didn't know who you were working for, could your kids be in danger of the police? Very. And I don't think you want your kid who didn't actually join the gang. He's not actually a gang member. He doesn't know what his creed is. He doesn't know anything about folk. He's claiming folk. Then he goes to jail. You know what happens to people that claim gangs when they're not actually part of the gang? They get beat up by a gang, and that's not beat up by one person. They get stomped. And so what I'm telling you is, when I said to the Colorado Springs FBI, you guys need to leave because you put people in danger, it's because they put people in danger. And it's not just them, it's the police. I'm just saying, like, if I was in charge, I would fire every single Colorado Springs Police Department person, and I would bring in people from other cities. Like, every single person that's a member of the Colorado Springs Police Department, I'd fire them. And then go get other jobs. Then go move to another city and be a cop. But I wouldn't let him be a cop here. You know why? Because Vince Niski's picking him. Because Vince Niski's in charge, and Vince Niski is not trustworthy. I think that he's proven that. So is Mayor Suthers trustworthy? Not at all. Mayor Suthers is very close friends with Vince Niski. So Mayor Suthers is like, he could be subbed out and become chief of police, and he'd be perfect at that job because he's basically a cop in my mind. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're from Colorado Springs, your kids might be in danger of the FBI.